Greetings, true believers, and welcome to another uncanny episode of History of the Marvel Universe. Illyana Nikolaevna Rasputina was born on the Ust-Ordinsky collective farm in the Russian province of Siberia. There she spent her early childhood with her parents and older brother Pyotr, a mutant with the natural ability to transform into super strong organic steel. When Illyana was a child, her brother left the farm to join Charles Xavier's team of mutant superheroes, the X-Men, and became Colossus. Because of this, it wasn't long before Illyana too was pulled into the strange world of superheroics. An eccentric assassin known as Arcade had seemingly been imprisoned by the villainous Dr. Doom, or at least one of his robot duplicates. And so, Arcade's assistant, a woman named Miss Locke, decided to coerce the X-Men into freeing her employer by abducting their loved ones, including Illyana Rasputin. Rather than relying on Locke to keep her word, Professor X assembled a second team of X-Men for a two-pronged strategy. While Storm, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Angel, and Colossus infiltrated Doom's castle in the Adirondack Mountains, Banshee, Iceman, Havoc, and Polaris traveled to Arcade's twisted theme park, Murder World, to rescue Illyana and the others. After a successful mission on both fronts, Illyana was brought back to the X-Mansion for safekeeping. Colossus and Kitty Pryde looked after the young girl, which was made easier after Professor X telepathically tutored the X-Men in Russian. He similarly implanted the ability to speak English into Illyana's mind one night while she slept. For a time, she was safe and happy. But then one day, the X-Men set up a base of operations on a strange island in the Bermuda Triangle. Unbeknownst to the mutant team, their activities there were being observed by the demonic sorcerer Belasco. You see, Belasco was a 13th century magic user who struck a deal with an evil group of elder gods for power and immortality. These gods transformed the sorcerer into a demonic state, giving him the power he desired, and in exchange Belasco was commanded to create 5 bloodstones, and use them in a ritual to bring the elder gods to Earth. However, when Belasco was defeated by the jungle man Ka-Zar, his failure was punished and the elder gods banished him to the hellish dimension of Limbo. As a side note, this limbo, sometimes referred to as Other Place, is a different realm from the temporal limbo ruled by Immortus. From there, the demonic sorcerer took notice of the innocent young Illyana, and realized he could use her soul to produce the Bloodstones. He lured her away from the X-Men and used one of Limbo's portals, referred to as stepping discs, to pull her into his realm, claiming that he loved her. Realizing that Illyana had wandered off, the X-Men soon followed and were themselves pulled into Limbo through the stepping discs. Storm, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Colossus, and Kitty Pryde were all stranded, but due to Limbo's twisted, overlapping timeline, they soon discovered that this had happened before. The X-Men of another reality had also come to Limbo years prior, and while they succeeded in rescuing their own version of Illyana, the 5 of them had been trapped there. While the alternate universe versions of Colossus and Wolverine had been killed by Belasco's servant Sim, Kitty Pryde was partially mutated into a cat-like creature, simply called Cat, and Nightcrawler was brainwashed into becoming Belasco's servant. The alternate Storm, simply going by her real name, Aurora, grew older, and while her ability to use her mutant power waned, she substituted her powers by learning magic. Not wishing to see history repeat itself, the older Aurora held off Belasco's demonic hordes, while the newly trapped X-Men made their escape with Illyana. However, at the last moment, Belasco himself grabbed Illyana and pulled her back into limbo. Having claimed his prize, Belasco extracted a piece of Illyana's soul and used it to forge the first of the 5 necessary bloodstones, which he permanently affixed to a pentagram medallion. Aurora attempted to stop the demonic sorcerer, but in her advanced age, she was no match for Belasco armed with the power of a bloodstone. Fortunately, Kat, the older alternate universe Kitty Pryde, arrived on the scene and drove Belasco away. The 2 women brought Illyana back to Aurora's Garden Sanctuary, where the old sorceress attempted to sever the magical link Belasco had formed with Illyana. Upon failing to accomplish this, Aurora decided to instead tutor the young girl in magic, which would allow her to better defend herself against Belasco and the demonic corruption he had already implanted in her soul. This upset Kat, who left the garden swearing she would not allow Illyana to be used by Belasco. After the young girl spent some time training with Aurora, Kat snuck back into the sanctuary and convinced Illyana to leave with her. She brought her to Limbo's twisted, barren reflection of the Savage Land, where Kat taught Illyana how to fight with a sword. After 3 years of this, Kat brought Illyana back to Belasco's citadel, intending to send her home and out of his reach. The 2 were attacked by the corrupted Nightcrawler, but while Illyana held off the former X-Man, Kat was able to put him down for good. They then walked out onto Belasco's altar, where the walls between dimensions were at their thinnest. However, they were intercepted by Belasco himself, who seized Illyana once again, intending to further corrupt her and transform her into his Dark Child. He also further mutated Kat, making her both more feral and completely obedient. It seems Belasco's demonic influence had taken root in Illyana as well, for when he passed her a blade, she silently used it to cut her own wrist and conjure a second bloodstone. She then spent the next 2 years under Belasco's tutelage as her dark powers grew. She also attempted to use the same magic that Aurora had used to create her garden, but found herself unable to conjure even a single acorn. During these years, the demon Sim would punish the young girl at the slightest provocation, and sometimes for no reason at all. However, another demon by the name of Nastir also had plans for Illyana and ensured that Sim's punishments were never fatal. It was around this time that Illyana's mutant power manifested, allowing her to conjure and control Limbo's stepping disc to traverse through space and time. Not long after that, Aurora infiltrated Belasco's citadel seeking to rescue Illyana. Kat slashed the old sorceress across the back, mortally wounding her, but Illyana leapt onto Kat and, with a forceful twist, snapped her neck, killing her former friend and mentor. Belasco then commanded Illyana to use Storm's essence to craft a 3rd bloodstone. However, Illyana refused, instead killing Aurora, thereby freeing the old woman's soul from Belasco's darkness. With Storm dead, the weather in the skies above Belasco's tower began to go mad. Illyana used a stepping disc to teleport away and buried Aurora in her garden sanctuary. However, Belasco soon caught up to the young girl, and used a piece of her tainted soul to create another bloodstone, leaving her stranded in the frozen wasteland that was once Aurora's garden. She took shelter beside the oldest and largest tree there, attempting again to replicate Storm's life-creating magic by using her own essence to conjure a new acorn. However, again she failed. Then, after the old tree collapsed, Illyana tried again, but this time, something was different. This time, instead of using her own soul to create life, she plunged her hand into a sphere of her own essence and drew forth a blade. With her newly forged soul sword in hand, Illyana used her stepping disc to teleport back to the Citadel and challenge Belasco. She struck down his servant Sim and destroyed his ancient tomes. As the battle progressed, Belasco began to lose his eldritch power, becoming human once again, while Illyana grew more demonic. However, realizing what she was becoming, Illyana stopped short of killing her opponent. Belasco seized his opportunity to escape with the arcane power he had remaining to him, and Illyana reverted back to human form. Then, stepping out onto Belasco's altar, Illyana was able to use a disc to return home. But because of Limbo's strange chronology, while the young girl had spent 7 years in the hellish dimension, only a few seconds had passed on Earth. The now teenage Illyana continued to stay at the X-Mansion, but kept her dark power a secret at first. Not long after, the demon Sim followed the Dark Child from Limbo and attacked. However, Illyana defeated Sim, forcing him to pledge his loyalty to her, effectively making Illyana the new ruler of Limbo. And of course, Illyana's powers, both mutant and magical, wouldn't stay secret for long. After Kitty Pryde was kidnapped by Emma Frost, the White Queen of the Hellfire Club, Illyana joined up with Xavier's recent group of teenage recruits, the New Mutants, to rescue her. After that, Illyana stayed with the New Mutants, operating under the code name Magik. Shortly after this, Illyana was injured while the group battled a magical demon bear, but her wounds instantly healed, covering themselves in a magical silver armor. While the armor disappeared after the battle, leaving no trace of itself or the injuries it covered, when Illyana used her soul sword, the armor would return, covering more and more of her body. At the same time, the dark power inside her also grew, and when the extremely powerful interdimensional entity known as the Beyonder came to Earth, he forcefully drew this dark magic forth, physically transforming Illyana into the cloven-hooved Dark Child. While she was able to change back to human form, Illyana soon found that the transformation would again be triggered by using too much magic or through extreme emotional distress. Then, things in Limbo changed after the New Mutants were attacked by the Magus, the father of their techno-organic alien ally, Warlock. Magik transported the team to Limbo to escape, but the Magus followed, infecting the demons there with the transmode virus, transforming them into techno-organic creatures like himself. This included Sim, who began amassing power in an attempt to overthrow Magik as the ruler of Limbo. Illyana attempted to hold off Sim's hordes of techno-organic demons, but found she could prevent them from gaining strength by leaving her soul sword plunged into the ground, temporarily suppressing Limbo's demonic taint. However, whenever Magik was forced to draw her blade in battle, Sim's power grew. Meanwhile, Illyana's demonic side, the Dark Child, continued to grow stronger as well. Things in Limbo came to a head when Sim allied himself with the demon sorcerer Nastir. Concocting a plan to invade Earth, Nastir and his magical followers, uninfected by the transmode virus, kidnapped 13 mutant children to use in a dark ritual in the skies above Manhattan. Meanwhile, while returning from a mission off-world, Magik and the New Mutants were again pulled into Limbo for another confrontation with Sim and his techno-organic demons. This time, because of the growing corruption in Illyana's soul, Sim was able to steal her soul sword for himself. The team ported away and escaped, but Nastir convinced Illyana to attack Sim and reclaim her soul sword. In doing so, Illyana transformed, becoming fully demonic. Then, when the Dark Child opened a stepping disc to return to Earth, she inadvertently completed Nastir's ritual, opening a massive portal to Limbo above New York, from which hordes of demons emerged. Illyana, Nastir, and Sim battled each other for control of the demonic invasion. During these fights, Nastir also became infected with the transmode virus, and Illyana completely encased herself in her silvery magical armor. Colossus also joined the fight, holding off Sim while Illyana decided that the only way to stop the invasion was to completely abandon her humanity and ascend to Limbo's demonic throne. The New Mutants, however, begged her to find another way. By using Limbo's stepping discs to dive through time and space, they were able to find and rescue a younger Illyana from before she was tainted by Belasco's demonic influence. The mutant team brought the younger Illyana, possibly the Illyana from the same Earth as the older Storm and the other X-Men who perished in Limbo, and brought her before her teenage self. Enraged, the demonic Illyana discarded her armor and, glowing with magical light, nearly struck down her younger counterpart. However, she realized there was another choice she could make to undo the damage she had done. The teenage Illyana sacrificed herself, erasing her presence in Limbo, while simultaneously pulling the demonic hordes back to their hellish realm, and sealing the portal to Earth once again. When the dust settled, all that was left was her armor. But when Colossus held it, he heard his sister's voice coming from inside. Ripping the armor open, Colossus found the younger Illyana, alive and well. For a time, this seemed to be a happy ending for the Rasputin siblings. However, things did not remain that way, and the younger Illyana fell ill. A victim of the mutant-specific legacy virus, the child passed away soon after. Meanwhile, the older Illyana's soul sword magically transferred itself to Kitty Pryde. However, after changing hands several times, the soul sword was eventually claimed by a sorceress named Amanda Sefton. Amanda had her own traumatic experiences with Belasco in Limbo, and so she decided to take on Illyana's legacy, becoming the new Magik and establishing herself as Limbo's ruler. However, in order to keep Illyana's soul sword safe from those who would misuse it, Amanda hid it within the purest soul she knew, her former lover, Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler. Then, something changed. Thanks to a spell cast by the Scarlet Witch, reality itself was transformed, and the House of M reigned. One of the many differences in this altered reality was that Illyana Rasputin was alive and well, working as a SHIELD agent alongside several other young mutants. However, this reality existed only briefly. Earth's heroes restored the world to its proper state, and Illyana ceased to be once more. But from his exile outside of normal space and time, Belasco saw her, his heir, his love, his dark child. He wanted her back, and, convinced she was still alive, Belasco clawed his way back into Limbo. He carved a bloody swath through the demonic hordes and challenged Amanda Sefton for control of the hellish realm. Without the soul sword of the original, the new Magik was defeated and banished to Earth. After assuming control of Limbo once more, Belasco attempted to resurrect Illyana, But, lacking her soul, the demonic sorcerer could only restore the twisted Dark Child. Mistakenly convinced the real Illyana was still alive, Belasco abducted a team of new X-Men, expecting them to reveal the location of Illyana's soul. However, the Dark Child intercepted Belasco's spell, spiriting some of the new X-Men off to Limbo's wastelands, one of which was a mutant girl named Pixie. The Dark Child knew that the only weapon that had proven effective against Belasco was the Soul Sword, but without her soul, the resurrected Illyana could neither summon her blade nor craft a new one. Pixie was young and innocent, much like Illyana was when she first fell into Limbo, and so the Dark Child intended to use her soul to forge a new blade. Pixie reluctantly agreed, and while a new bloodstone was forged from a piece of her soul, the other X-Men interrupted the spell before it was completed, resulting in Pixie's soul weapon emerging as a dagger. This experience also awakened Illyana's dormant memories within the Dark Child. Illyana then taught Pixie a teleportation spell so the team could confront Belasco and rescue their friends. Illyana led the assault, summoning her magical armor and attacking her former mentor once more. This time, with the combined might of Magik and the new X-Men against him, Belasco was killed when Pixie thrust her soul dagger into his back. Almost immediately after that, the older X-Men, including Illyana's brother Colossus, arrived on the scene to rescue their students. Unable to contend with her brother seeing her in her demonic state, Magik sent the X-Men, young and old, back to Earth. Staying behind, Illyana took her place as the ruler of Limbo, with even Sim and Nastir swearing fealty to her. With her demonic hordes, Illyana began scouring Limbo, searching for her soul sword and the 3 missing bloodstones. Meanwhile, back on Earth, with her new ability to teleport, Pixie was being tutored by Nightcrawler. However, her soul dagger caused her to lose her senses and stab her teacher in the chest. Thankfully, Nightcrawler was physically uninjured, and when Pixie pulled the soul dagger out of his body, it dragged with it Illyana's soul sword, still hidden inside of him where Amanda had left it. Immediately sensing a piece of her own soul, the Dark Child used a stepping disc to jump back to Earth. Illyana attacked the X-Men and reclaimed her soul sword, and in doing so, seemed to restore her lost humanity. But then, upon returning to Limbo, Illyana discovered the person who had taken possession of the missing bloodstones. Belasco's true daughter, Witchfire, who intended to conquer Limbo for herself. Witchfire stole Pixie's bloodstone and placed it in Illyana's old amulet, leaving only one remaining to fulfill her father's goals of summoning the Elder Gods. Meanwhile, Nightcrawler led a team of X-Men, including Colossus and Pixie, into Limbo to try and reach Illyana. Pixie confronted Witchfire, but the villainess overpowered the young mutant and forged the final bloodstone from her soul. With the pentagram completed, Witchfire began summoning her father's Dark Masters. Fortunately, as the newest bloodstone was not yet permanently adhered to the amulet, Illyana and Pixie were able to use their soul weapons to dislodge it and interrupt the ritual. The stone they pried free fused with Pixie's soul dagger, but Witchfire escaped with the remaining 4 bloodstones. Illyana returned the X-Men to Earth once more, and intended to resume her role in Limbo. However, Colossus and Cyclops convinced her to stay with them, because they were her family. And so, Illyana remained on Earth as a member of the X-Men. She reunited with her old allies, the New Mutants, and used her powers, her sorcery, her soul sword, and her control of Limbo to fight for justice and mutant rights as Magik. And that's the origin and history of Illyana Rasputina. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, leave a comment, and share it on your favorite social media. As always, the issues referenced in this video are listed in the description below if you would like to read them for yourself, as well as links to other places you can find me. So until next time, true believers, Excelsior!